It's currently 8:30 a.m. on September 25th, and this is Jeff Anderson. I'm Vice President of the board, and I now call this meeting to order. Can we please have a roll call by member of staff and conflicts of interest declarations?
Certainly, Mr. Chair. Mr. Braswell,
Here, no conflicts.
Mr. Thorwald, Ms. Browning,
Present, no conflicts.
Ms. Davis,
Present, no conflicts.
Ms. Walmsley, Ms. Spark, Mr. Hogan, Mr. Al-Nassif,
Here, no conflict.
and Mr. Anderson.
Present, no conflict.
We have 5 present and 4 absent, Mr. Chair. We do have a quorum.
All right, we'll go ahead and move forward then. Do we have a motion for accepting the minutes from our last meeting? Those are the minutes that were recorded on YouTube.
I move to accept the minutes from last meeting.
I second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. We'll move on to tab 4, administrative hearings. All right, so this is the date, time, and place where the matter dealing with Rashad Fayed, board case number 25-0154 and 25-0256 is scheduled to be heard by the Arizona State Board of Pharmacy. This is a formal administrative hearing to determine if there have been violations of the board's statutes and rules and whether disciplinary action is warranted. The board is committed to ensuring that its business is conducted in a respectful manner. When conducting formal administrative hearings, the parties are expected to treat the board, witnesses, and each other with respect in a civil and courteous manner. The parties shall not engage in any conduct that brings disorder or disruption to the proceedings. Neither party will be allowed to interrupt the board or the opposing party except where necessary to make an effective objection. If a party does not adhere to these basic civilities, the board will ask the party to modify their behavior. If the party continues to exhibit disruptive behavior, the party's microphone will be muted until it is their turn to speak. Members present today include Jeff Anderson, Tennille Davis, Tarek Al-Nassif, Les Braswell, and Melinda Browning. Let the record reflect that board members have been furnished copies of the complaint, notice of hearing, and all pleadings of record. Will all parties please introduce yourselves?
Jean Galvin, Assistant Attorney General on behalf of the state.
Thank you, Ms. Galvin. Any other parties present? Is the respondent present in the room?
She is not.
Okay, a hearing of this nature differs from a court proceeding. The technical rules of evidence do not apply. Reliable hearsay evidence is admissible, and the board will entertain objections concerning irrelevant, repetitious, or otherwise inadmissible evidence. Each party will be allowed to present evidence, cross-examine opposing witnesses, and make a closing argument. In a disciplinary proceeding, the state bears the burden of proof and shall present its case first. Each party may now make an opening statement. This is a brief summary of the case you intend to present today. Does the state wish to make an opening statement?
I do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I may, a housekeeping issue. Ms. Fayed is not here in person. Staff, do you see her in the room, or has she called in?
No, she's not in the Zoom room and she has not called in.
Okay, thank you. If I may, because she has failed to appear, I would like to move exhibits 1 through 16 into evidence just as a housekeeping matter.
I move to accept exhibits 1 through 16.
Thank you, Mr.
Second.
Braswell. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
Okay, thank you. I will have a brief opening statement. The mission of the Arizona Board of Pharmacy is to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of Arizona by regulating the practice of pharmacy. The board accomplished its mission in part by disciplining those licensees who have committed unprofessional conduct. The case before you today involves Ms. Rasha Fayed, a licensed pharmacist who is the subject of 2 complaints. The allegations include attempting to order controlled substance, namely Vyvanse, when it was not indicated, allowing other pharmacy personnel to use her credentials, diversion, failure to report losses of controlled substances, and forging some 50+ prescriptions for herself and family members. This conduct including the forged prescriptions occurred over the last few years in Virginia as well as Arizona. Ms. Fayed has admitted to the forgery. You will hear today from Ms. Jenica Brown with the board. She will walk you through her investigation into these matters. You will also hear from Richard Yaz with CVS. He also conducted a very thorough investigation into Ms. Fayed's failure to report the numerous losses of controlled substances, as well as her propensity to prescribe medication for herself and her family members, and then fill those prescriptions. At the conclusion of the hearing, we ask that you find violations of 32-1901.01B2, Arizona Administrative Code 4, R4 23408, F1, ARS 32-1901.01B2, and 32-1901.01B8, B11, B19, B21, and B30. These are the same allegations that are set forth in the complaint and notice of hearing. Finally, upon the presentation of the state's case, we ask that you, 1, uphold the summary suspension of Ms. Fayed's pharmacist license that occurred on October 26, 2025, and that you revoke her license to practice pharmacy. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Galvin. Could you please call your first witness?
My first witness is Jenica Brown.
Ms. Brown, do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, and documents have been entered into evidence. Go ahead, Ms. Brown.
And Ms. Brown, please state your name for the record and tell us who you work for
My name is Jenica Brown. I work for the Arizona State Board of Pharmacy.
and in what capacity.
I'm the executive assistant to the deputy director.
And how long have you had that position?
1 year.
And what are your responsibilities?
I investigate complaints that contain serious allegations that pose imminent risk to public health and safety, such as diversion, impairment in the workplace, fitness for duty concerns, various types of unprofessional conduct, and serious criminal charges.
Through your employment, are you familiar with Ms. Rasha Fayed?
I am.
And who is that?
She is a licensee. She's a pharmacist in the state of Arizona.
What is your understanding of the purpose of today's hearing?
We're here as a result of the board's decision to summarily suspend Rasha Fayed's pharmacist license after considering 2 complaints against Ms. Fayed during its meeting on August 20th, 2025.
Okay, and what was your role in this matter in these 2 cases?
I investigated both complaints against Ms. Fayed.
Mr. Chairman, given that the board's investigative records are confidential, I would ask that we move into executive session, please.
Thank you, Ms. Galvin. Can we have a motion for executive session?
I move to executive session.
I second.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll move into executive session. All right, it appears that we are back with the boardroom. Are we streaming and everything good to go?
Streaming is good.
Very good. We will now continue with Ms. Galvin and our witness, Ms. Brown, for the public portion of the examination.
I believe there's been a suggestion that roll call be taken.
Okay,
Okay,
Dr. Gandhi, can you do roll call, please?
if you, I believe he's trying to ensure that the stream is ready.
You able to hear me, board members? Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can.
Yes.
Mr. Braswell?
Here.
Mr. Thorwald, still absent. Ms. Browning?
Present.
Ms. Davis?
Present.
Ms. Walmsley, still absent. Ms. Spark? Mr. Hogan? Mr. Al Nassif?
Here.
Mr. Anderson?
Here.
We still have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you, Dr. Gandhi. Ms. Galvin, you may continue with your witness.
Thank you. Members of the board, we will be referring to the exhibits that are public. They are with the white cover sheet and they start at exhibit number 10. Ms. Brown, what is your understanding with respect to the diversion that CVS discovered out of the Yuma CVS pharmacy?
It is my understanding that they attributed the loss of 11 different controlled substances in a quantity of about 71 medications that she diverted.
Did they report this to law enforcement,
They-
if you know?
I understand they did.
Okay, please refer to exhibit 10. And what is this document?
This is an indictment in the Superior Court of the State of Arizona in and for the County of Yuma.
Okay, and what are the charges against Ms. Fayed?
Count 1, fraudulent schemes.
And did she appear at this initial appearance in Yuma County?
She did not.
And what was the result of her failure to appear?
The court ordered a bench warrant for the arrest of Ms. Fayed with a bond in the amount of $30,000.
So the board has all of this information. You've conducted your investigation. CVS has sent you documents. What occurs next?
Once the complaints were investigated, I completed the reports summarizing the investigations and the findings that were prepared for the board's consideration. The matters were considered by the board during the August 2025 meeting. The board voted to summarily suspend Ms. Fayed's license during that meeting, and we're here today to hold a hearing within 30 days of the notice to the respondent, Ms. Fayed, of the complaint and notice of hearing for the summary suspension.
Is exhibit number 12 that order summarily suspending her license?
It is.
And exhibit 13 is the complaint and notice of hearing that was issued subsequent to the summary suspension. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And we see that that complaint notice of hearing sets forth the factual allegations, does it not?
It does.
And we, that complaint notice of hearing is the basis for today's proceeding, correct?
Correct.
Was she required and requested to file an answer to this complaint notice of hearing?
Yes, she was.
Did she file that answer?
No, she did not.
Were the order for summary suspension, complaint and notice of hearing sent to Ms. Fayed at her last known address of record?
Yes, it was.
It was sent via regular mail. Was that regular mail returned?
It was not.
Was it sent via email?
It was.
Did it bounce back?
It did not.
Please refer to what has been marked as exhibit or admitted into evidence as exhibit number 16. Was the order for summary suspension and the complaint and notice of hearing also sent by certified mail?
It was.
And tell us what we're looking at for exhibit number 16, beginning on page 119.
This is the United States Postal Service tracking information for the certified mail. It appears that it was sent to her address in Yuma and was redirected to a distribution center in Virginia. And a notice was left for Ms. Fayed to pick up the mail. A delivery attempt was made, but it has not yet been picked up.
And this certified mail contained both the order for summary suspension and the complaint notice of hearing.
It did.
At the conclusion of these proceedings, what is it that the board is seeking with respect to adjudication?
The board is seeking revocation of Ms. Fayed's license.
Is the board also being requested to uphold its previous summary suspension?
Yes, it is.
And why is it that the board is seeking revocation?
There have been serious violations of statute and rule in both of these matters. Ms. Fayed failed to notify the DEA of losses. She shared her credentials. IHS attributed a loss of a controlled substance to her. She admitted to forging 59 prescriptions. CVS attributed multiple controlled substance losses to her. She failed to comply with a board subpoena. She failed to respond to the summary suspension. She failed to respond to the notice of hearing, and she failed to appear today. Taken all together, Ms. Fayed's conduct demonstrates that she has no regard for her obligation to abide by the laws and regulations in the practice of pharmacy. She has further demonstrated that she is not able to be regulated. All of the facts presented today demonstrate that Ms. Fayed's conduct poses an imminent risk to public health and safety.
Okay, thank you. I have nothing further of this witness, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Galvin. Would you like to call your second witness?
Yeah. Do any of the board members have questions of Ms. Brown?
Hearing none. Ms. Galvin, would you like to call your second witness?
Yes, thank you. The state now calls Mr. Richard Yaws.
Here and present.
He's
You are muted, Dr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Nassib. Thank you, Mr. Yaws. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Galvin.
Thank you, Mr. Yaws. Will you please state your full name for the record and tell us who you work for?
My name is Richard Yaws Jr., and I work for CVS Pharmacies as a drug diversion investigator.
Tell us about your responsibilities as a drug diversion investigator.
I'm responsible working with a team to review data related to missing controlled substances and other prescription drugs, to review prescription activity, and to research and investigate acts or suspected acts of fraud and forgery and any other violations of law as it relates to the operation of pharmacy.
And how long have you had this position?
I've worked in this specific position for approximately 3 years, but I've worked in this department in this job for 27 years with CVS, and I've worked this type of activity during that entire time.
What geographical region do you cover for CVS?
I work in all facilities owned and operated by CVS Health nationwide.
Are you familiar with Ms. Rasha Fayed?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
And tell us who she is with respect to your knowledge.
At the time that I became aware of her, she was a CVS pharmacist at our CVS location 10028 in Yuma, Arizona. And I became aware of her as a result of a case that had been assigned to me as a result of shortages that were discovered by another pharmacist at that location.
Do you recall approximately when you first became aware of her?
Yes, and looking at my notes, I can see that that actually was assigned to me on April 25th of 2025.
Mr. Chairman, given the nature of the testimony that I anticipate discussing with Mr. Yaz, I would ask that we go into executive session for review of that documentation.
Thank you, Ms. Galvin. Do we have a motion to move to executive session?
So moved.
I move.
All right, second.
I second.
All right, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we'll see everyone in an executive session.
Mr. Chair, I'll just take a quick roll call. Attendees, Mr. Braswell,
Here.
Mr. Al Nassif,
Here.
Ms. Browning,
Here.
Mr. Anderson,
Here.
and Ms. Davis.
Here.
Okay, and I'll note the absentees.
Thank you, Dr. Gandhi. State, do you have any additional witnesses to call?
No additional witnesses.
State, do you rest your case?
We do.
Considering the respondent's not here, this concludes the evidentiary portion of the hearing. The board will now hear a closing comment. Does the state wish to make a closing argument?
Just very briefly, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, the evidence presented by this state today is uncontroverted. The documentary evidence against Ms. Fayed, as well as her admissions to numerous instances of unprofessional conduct, clearly prove the allegations levied against her. The only reasonable and justifiable action the board must take today to adhere to its mission to protect the public is number one, uphold the summary suspension of her license as entered on August 26, 2025. Number two, find that the evidence offered by the state proves the violations of statute and rule as set forth in the complaint of notice and hearing. And three, revoke her license to practice pharmacy in the state of Arizona. And four, notify the Virginia Board of Pharmacy of the action that you have taken today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Galvin. The board will now be again general discussion or entertain motions to make findings of fact, conclusions of law, and a final order. The floor is now open for the board. The board will now discuss whether the state has proven these allegations. Board, do you have any additional questions or general discussion?
I find that the
ahead.
board has proven the allegations against this licensee.
I agree.
I agree.
We have like sufficient evidence.
All right, Mr. Harris, do we need to do anything separately regarding the summary suspension or what's our next step here?
Vice President Anderson, members of the board, first, I hope you can hear me. And I think if it's okay with you, if we could entertain several motions and consistent with the state's request, perhaps the first motion could be upholding the summary suspension of the board's action.
I'll make a motion to uphold the summary suspension of this licensee.
I second.
We need a roll call, Dr. Gandhi.
For the record, it may be best to take a roll call.
Okay.
Mr. Braswell. Mr. Braswell.
Aye.
Perfect. Thank you. Ms. Browning,
Aye.
Ms. Davis,
Aye.
Mr. Al Nassif,
Aye.
Mr. Anderson.
Aye.
Ayes have it, and then we'll note the absentees.
Thank you, Dr. Gandhi. Mr. Harris, could you remind us on what item number 2 was that we needed to address separately?
Sure. Vice President Anderson, if I may, members of the board, if you have your state's exhibits in front of you, it might be helpful if you refer to State's Exhibit 13, which I believe is a copy of the complaint notice of hearing that was issued in this matter. And if you do, if you could turn your attention to page 4, and I would ask, based upon the state's case, that the board consider adopting the factual allegations 1 through 17 that begin again on page 4 as your findings of fact in this case.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Board members, is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion for the board to adopt the factual allegations and the allegations of the conduct and the facts and the conclusion of the law. Is that correct?
Oh,
Thank
it's
you.
very, very close. If I could ask that the motion just be limited at this time just to the findings of fact.
Okay, so move my motion to the findings of the fact.
And that would be as set forth in the complaint notice of hearing 1 through 17.
1 through 17.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Browning. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Braswell. Dr. Gandhi, roll call.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Braswell,
Aye.
Ms. Browning,
Aye.
Ms. Davis,
Aye.
Mr. Al-Nassif,
Aye.
Mr. Anderson.
Aye.
Ayes have it, noting absentees.
All right, Mr. Harris, number 3 on the list.
If Vice President Anderson, members of the board, if the board could take a look at page 7 of the complaint notice of hearing and consider adopting the alleged violations as your conclusions of law as set forth in paragraphs 1 through 4. I will note that paragraph 4 is in essence a request to affirm the summary suspension.
Thank you.
I'll make that my
Board member?
motion.
Thank you, Mr. Braswell. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Ms. Browning. All in favor? Dr. Gandhi, roll call, please.
Certainly, Mr. Chair. Mr. Braswell,
Aye.
Ms. Browning,
Aye.
Ms. Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Al-Nassif,
Aye.
Mr. Anderson.
Aye.
Ayes have it, noting absentees.
Thank you. And if I recall correctly, number 4 is our discussion on discipline, and the state had recommended revocation.
That is correct.
All right, board members, any further discussion?
I'll make a motion to accept the state's recommendation for revocation.
I have some discussion on this. I just given the egregious nature of this conduct and the overwhelming evidence that was presented this morning, I believe the state has definitely clearly proven its case for revocation. But the actions really represent a serious threat to patient safety and undermine public trust and our profession. In addition to the revocation, have we ever done and could we consider imposing a civil penalty of $1,000 per fraudulent prescription? So the 59 that I know it was bumped up to 65, but at least 59, so totaling $59,000. So not only reflects the seriousness of these violations, but also serves as a deterrent against any future attempt by this respondent to seek relicensure in the state. Is that something we've done in the past, or could we consider?
Mr. Chair, we have done a fine and suspension, not necessarily a fine and revocation, but that is up to the board to discuss and potentially consider.
Ms. Davis, would you be willing to amend the motion to consider a civil penalty as well? Or any board have any other comments?
I just want to ask Dr. Gandhi, if there is a maximum, if we're gonna add fine to our motion, if there is a max in these cases?
That is a discussion that the board would have to have. I mean, you can obviously set $1,000 fine and set a maximum limit as well.
Okay, but there's nothing in the rules on the statutes.
Nothing in rule. The rule strictly says is that the board can impose $1,000 per violation.
Per violation, okay.
59 prescriptions could be 15 violations.
I don't know if I'm in favor of imposing a $59,000 civil penalty on this person that we're taking away their license and, ability to, pursue their livelihood and the college degree that they got. And I'm not opposed to a fine. I just think that 59,000 is too large. I could amend my motion to accept the state's recommendation for revocation and impose $1,000 civil penalty for fraudulent prescriptions with a maximum of $10,000 fine.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. Any further discussion? Or is there a second?
I second the 10,000.
Before voting, I do have a question. Dr. Gandhi, after potential revocation, what would the process be, or is there any sort of ability to regain one's license at some point in the future?
So the definition of revocation under our statute indicates that if the board does not indicate the length of revocation, it is 2 years. But they could also petition myself or the board to lift that revocation sooner than the 2-year mark. But at a minimum, it could be 2 years if you don't specify.
I just don't know if 10,000 is a deterrent enough to prevent this respondent from attempting to practice again in our state. This was not just their own substance use. This was prescribing and practicing way out of scope of being a pharmacist.
I agree with Mr. Anderson.
But we've got a first and a second for revocation and a $1,000 fine per prescription, maximum $10,000 civil penalty. So we should go forward with a vote on that.
And
It's okay, I'll take a
Vice-
roll call, Mr. Chair.
and may I just ask a clarifying question of the maker of the motion? It's my understanding the motion was to revoke the license and issue a civil penalty of $10,000. When would you like the penalty paid within the time frame?
Isn't the standard 90 days?
Is it the standard?
Yes.
In the standard time frame.
Okay, if this. We're just getting some input from staff.
There is an appeal period as well.
Yes.
Yes, so.
Yeah, so is the standard of a civil penalty generally 90 days? So it's my understanding that it is 90 days, but again, you're free to deviate from that if you think it's appropriate.
I'll, amend my motion to have the civil penalty paid within the standard time frame of 90 days.
Thank you. And would the second agree to the amendment?
I second.
Thank you.
All right, board members, any further discussion before we go for a roll call?
And if I could just ask staff, is there anything else that I'm missing from the motion that should be in there as far as the details with respect to the civil penalty?
I believe the state asked to notify Board of Virginia, but I believe this is by default. Is that right, Dr. Gandhi? They will be notified?
So if not paid within 90 days, move the situation to collections. I think that would be standard terms. In addition, would you give her the ability to apply to reinstate her license or reapply for a license sooner than 2 years? Or did you not want to see her until 2-year mark or longer? It's up to you guys.
Honestly, this behavior is very outrageous. I don't think 2 years is enough time for people to change their behavior. She's been having this behavior for years. And I mean, I'm in favor of if we are able to do it more than 2 years, definitely.
Yeah, I'm not in support of her being able to reinstate her license sooner than 2 years.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so that's part of your motion, Ms. Davis. Ms. Browning, are you in agreement?
Second, yeah.
Ms. Davis, would you be open to extending it to 5 years?
I mean, I'm in favor with that.
I would be in favor of that as well. I think that this behavior was unbelievably outrageous as well. And I think that it would take a lot for this person to understand how inappropriate her behavior was, be able to be regulatable as a pharmacist again. So I'm open to amending my motion to indicate that she would not be eligible for reinstatement of her license until 5 years.
And I would second.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All right, Dr. Gandhi, we're ready for roll call then.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Braswell.
Aye.
Okay. Ms. Browning,
Aye.
Ms. Davis,
I,
Mr. Al-Nassif,
Aye.
Mr. Anderson.
Aye.
Ayes have it, Madam Chair, or Mr. Chair, sorry, and note absentees.
Thank you, Dr. Gandhi. So Ms. Galvin, if I recall correctly, you wanted some sort of motion as well to refer this to the Commonwealth of Virginia? Was that accurate or?
That is my recommendation. That would be the recommendation from the state.
All right, do we need a motion for that, Dr. Gandhi, and
You do need a motion. It does not need a roll call, though.
okay. Is there a motion to refer this to the Commonwealth of Virginia?
Yes, this is my motion. I move.
All right,
Right.
second.
Second.
All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. And I believe this concludes the proceeding and the board's decision will be reduced to a written order. And thank you all for attending today.